Yo, what's up, everybody? So, welcome to the Relationship Intensive. I'm so fucking glad y'all are here. Um, for real, this is like one of the things I was like really excited to teach. There's a few courses that have been like cooking for a few years, and even before kind of like teaching openly, there's a few things that I was like, one day I'm gonna like share this work with as many people as I can. And there was like a few courses that I'm super excited to like put out there because I think they can contribute so much to like us as individuals, but our communities, right? And like our families, the world. And I think learning how to relate with great skill, learning how to relate in a way that can produce the things that we want, like consistently, I think is just such a gift. And truly, I think it has the capacity to like liberate, and not in the sense of like, once you learn this, nothing bad ever happens. It's not necessarily that, but once we learn how to relate and consistently put in the thing that has a shot at producing the things I want, changes the game truly. And when I think of like the freedom that's possible when there's like the clarity, the stability internally, right? When I know what my needs are and how to care for those needs, like, like all the other cool shit is just icing on the cake, right? You want to visit other realms, like learn how to relate first. You want to channel the gods, learn how to be a good friend, good partner, right? Like you want to have clairvoyance and learn how to heal people, like learn how to relate. And then those skills, we can use them like in a way that's really powerful, really leveraged. And then those skills, in the absence of being able to relate, um, unfortunately are limited, and we know a lot of people that are like really capable and are like little jerks and they're just capable in their room by themselves all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like they're capable, and I only hang out with them when I want somebody to tell me how to live my life. And that's not often. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, who here has a lot of judgments around every choice I make and would give me feedback regardless of what I do, that I could call, right? And I'm like, oh, that's right, my friend Ken. Um, so this work again, like is just vital. And then I think I saw a few folks that are new, so I should like introduce myself. I think I know most people, but yeah, what qualifies me to do this work is I've had teachers that really loved me. My grandmother really loved me, and from the time I was really young, she taught me this work, and I think my grandmother and a few other elders just like are the smartest human beings I've ever met. And they invested in me deeply and like loved me deeply and like um I'll say like validated at its really like core level who I am and what I was here to do, and they set me on a path to make that shit happen. And then I've gotten a chance to like train with a lot of like indigenous folks. Here in the Southwest, we're super blessed to have like intact native communities, and yeah, so blessed to have been able to learn. And I'm young, I'm like a knucklehead, and like I kind of grew up in the hood, and these teachings are like why I had an intact self concept and why there was like a resilience to match what things I had growing up. Also practically like 9 to 5 world. I'm a social worker, was a social worker up until COVID hit. And so I worked in the field of family violence for 10 years, which is like a third of my life. I'm 31, if anyone's curious. And so I got to work with in children, a crisis shelter for children here in Tucson. I live in Tucson, and supervised their programs, got to train incoming staff, got to like roll out programs for trauma informed care for children that were displaced by violence in our community. I got to work at got to like volunteer and facilitate groups at juvenile detention facilities, at the VA, worked with veterans for some time. and then facilitated groups for men committing acts of violence for like 6 years. And so kind of got to see from all these different angles the way that a number of things in our community and really, let's say, really dark aspects of our community play out, and then work to transmute that, and work to, I already had a lot of these like energy sensitivity and like a lot of these like skills online, and then to be like pressed up against something that, um again, just my opinion, I don't think in my lifetime these things are going to be over. I don't think in my lifetime children will stop being displaced by violence. I don't think in my lifetime I'll see violence on earth stop. And yet, I can give myself fully to seeing the world that I want to see, and developing skills to like translate that in really practical ways. And so, for me, I try to bridge energy work with this very grounded, um, and maybe we could say unfortunate, but a very grounded perception of like, what humanity is exploring right now. And we live in worlds and communities that are complicated, and I think I'm going to talk about things in a very um, grounded, and being able to acknowledge that there is like violence, that there is trauma, that there is hurt, deep hurt in our communities, especially in this course, right? Because when we're talking about relating, that isn't in a vacuum, like there's momentum and there's conversations that have been taking place, right? There's interactions that have been taking place since time immemorial. And so when we relate, that's the field that we're relating from, so like if I'm trying to have a really good relationship with a supervisor, but my supervisor is embedded in like a socio-political system, right? It's embedded in capitalism. And me being nice and using nonviolent communication, me being like, I hear that you would like better productivity. Am I getting that right? And my supervisor's like, yes, Ken, please quit talking to me and like send emails and like do your job. And I'm like, I'm hearing a lot of resistance. Is this correct? Yes. And I'm like, would you like to, do you have time to engage in this conversation? Like, we have to have, again, in my opinion, an understanding of these broader systems, and like the little us moving through these systems, because I'll say our freedom requires understanding these complex like interactions, and we're going to do it. We're going to talk about all these things. And so hopefully that's good enough introduction and then we could just jump in. And I hope it's really clear, right, that this shit is complicated, right? Even just me by myself in my own room, right? Like I wake up and maybe I'm having a good day or a bad day, right? Maybe I wake up and like my shoulder hurts. I step on a Lego that I left out, right? But I step on a Lego, right? Maybe internally, all I need is, and like again, like deep, right? It's like I want to feel connected, I want to feel valuable. But I wake up, I step on this Lego, I realize I'm late to work, I'm in my car, I'm like honking at people, right? Like the thing I desperately need is like love. And yet my behaviors and even like the emotions that people see me expressing might be anger, I might be pushing people away. And again, that's just me in a room by myself trying to get to my job. You know, the second I'm interfacing with other people, I can either have the skills to drop in and be aware of the thing that I desperately want, or move through my world in these like patterns of behaviors. And typically, what happens in these patterns of behavior is that they'll just continue to produce the things that I don't want. And I'll just continue to end in the same place again and again. Um, so that's me in my little bubble. The second I interface with my boss, right, they now have their complex, how they woke up, whether they stepped on a Lego or not. Apparently, there's a lot of Legos by people's beds in Tucson. That's the message I'm trying to send out here. No, but right, whether they had a good day or a bad day, um, their hopes and dreams, like right, whether they feel happy in their workplace, whether they got a difficult phone call, what needs of theirs are present in our interactions. And we're not even talking about energy work yet. You know what I'm saying? We're not even talking about what collective energetic explorations are out there. You know, maybe my ancestors and like that person's ancestors don't get down, like the stars and like the solar system and how that's moving, right? Like all of these things are in these circles that we can acknowledge, align with, and still have a choice around like how I want to engage these things. But we have to have a baseline. And I'm going to start putting baselines out there as options. And for folks who have been here in like other courses, I tend to leave things really open. I'm still going to do that, but this time I'm going to give us a little more tangible things because I think, especially when it comes to relating, there'll be moments in the heat of the moment, right? When someone's in my face, that it'll be hard to pull on, like, wait, what was that meditation on forgiveness? And I was like, oh, yeah, we grounded and then we cleared. And then there was like a picture thing that we did, right? And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. No, like in the heat of the moment, it's going to be like, what's my second center doing? You know, what's my third center doing? I'm like energetically, I want to kick him in the head, right? And I'm like, okay, that's probably not good, right? Like Ken never said energetically don't kick anybody in the head. So I'm like, I don't know if it's good or bad. No, right? But if you watch what's happening in your aura and you have some baseline of what a good, stable, clear, resourced, let's say energetic space is, then you can continually come back to it. And so the first baseline we're going to talk about is that like in our internal, let's say like reality, right? So everything, let's say within my skin, within my aura, all of our emotions and sensations, our self-talk, even like our memories, right? Our recollection of events. I'm gonna put this in general, right? It's they want love. They want validation. They want space. I'll say these things are worthy of our space, are worthy of love, validation. And yet, sometimes we get taught that they're not. And again, here within my bubble, it's my ability to love aspects of myself that create stability or keep me from it. And it's simple. It's going to be sometimes tough to apply. And yeah, I've heard me say this, right? I'm like, when we comes down to all of our emotions, they just want a hug. But some are a little more squirrely and complicated, right? Like my anger wants validation that that person's mean. And I'm like, that's true. They were so mean. That was super unfair. And I'm like, it was. Right. And I'm like, it was really unfair. Right. And I'm like, okay, it's all right. Like, I think they just didn't know who you were and they misunderstood the situation. And I'm like, it's true. And then that emotion is ready to receive a hug. Right. But I need to, let's say, like, empower myself first. I need to validate my perspective before I'm willing to receive that hug and then cleanse myself of that situation. You know, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hurt that won't receive a hug if it feels like patronized or invalidated, right? So, like, let's say we can think of like, let's say, very collective pain. So, pain that my family line has felt, pain that my ancestral lineage has felt. I need to make a really big space for those emotions to first get to fully be. get to be acknowledged, seen, and then I can hold them. Then I can release them. Right. And again, the opposite of that is like compression, emotions that I'm either unconscious or I deny. Often there'll be emotions that we are like disgusted by, and it's a strong word, but I hope that we can, let's say, allow ourselves to see that there's times that, I'm ashamed that I feel hurt or sad, or I hate that I have anger towards this person or this community, right? Or I feel embarrassed that, I'm not feeling empowered, right? Whatever these things are. And whatever that self talk is, this work is going to require us to, I almost want to say, like, bookmark each of those sensations, emotions, the needs, and the self talk. And the more we can like have an analysis, like have clean awareness of how often I've told myself a certain story, right? So let's say when someone yells at me and I'm like, of course they're yelling at me. And then two options, right? I'm like, I suck at everything, right? Or I'm like, this person's such a jerk, right? Like whatever that, and make sure you're like, oh man, make sure you do the voice so that you can really remember the self-talk, right? Whichever direction I experience this thing and categorize it as their fault or mine, as an example, that's where the work is. And we're gonna do it. I'm talking about these things. I don't, I don't want to lose anybody. It's really simple, but I'll say it takes quite a bit of effort to prioritize what in my body gets to feel loved, gets to have space, gets to be celebrated. And there might be emotions like anger or sadness or grief or shame, embarrassment. Even sometimes we have resistance to being in resistance or being defensive. That's where the work is. Again, simple, not easy. The proof is in the pudding, though, right? Like the proof is going to be anything that feels shitty, there's an opportunity to hold. That's it. Like truly, anytime there's discomfort, there's something I can bring awareness to and give space. And things might still be uncomfortable, but they can be held with resource, right? I can still feel pissed because someone cut me off in traffic, but I can hold it in the right context where I'm like, one, I don't even know that person. I'm like, yeah, they drive a Prius and those people are weird. We know that, but like, I don't know this person specifically. I'm just trying to talk shit, yeah. Um, this doesn't have any weight on my value as a person. That clarity then allows me to then see the backlog of anger or hurt that is bigger than this interaction, right? So like if I don't know this person, never seen them, probably never going to see them again, then why is it that I feel so much anger, hurt at this person, right? And it's like we can clear that backlog by allowing ourselves to hold that experience fully. I hope this is all making sense. Y'all can be in the chat if it's not. When it comes to relating, this is how we get to neutral, right? Oftentimes when we're in an interaction, it's actually a backlog of stuck emotions, pain. That could be collective pain, it could be my ancestors' pain. That's what makes certain situations so charged, right? So, like, my boss is yelling at me. He's yelling at me because I didn't respond to certain emails that were important. And then I'm like, don't ever disrespect me, right? Like, Or again, or the other option is like I fuck up everything. And I'm sorry, I'm like, I cuss. I hope y'all are okay with that. Y'all can be in the chat if y'all are like can ease up. Um, but it's that backlog of pain, right? It's the fear in my body that was there when my dad used to yell. It's even the fear in my body that my ancestors have carried. That's the first step in bringing us to a neutral, clear, stable place to relate from. And and that's what we're going to explore today. We're going to get into the weeds, y'all. We're going to do this relating work, right? But I want us to be able to come back home to look at, okay, how much of the intensity of this interaction is the actual beef with my boss? And most of the time, it's going to be like 10% of it is. And where's most of my anger? And I'm like, anger at my mom, right? Or anger at my dad, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, that's 50% anger with my parents, right? 10% is anger with my boss. And then I'm like, what's this other stuff? And that's what I'm saying is like, this is maybe my ancestors hurt. Maybe this is even, again, that as a society, we're exploring that sometimes for money, I feel I have to endure people having power over me. And I hate that, right? But that all is what textures a phone call with my boss. And if I think it's just nonviolent communication, if I think it's just like my boss is yelling at me and it's like, why do you suck at responding to emails? And I'm like, I hear that you think I suck at writing emails. Did I get that right? And they're like, yeah, Ken, I just said that. I'm like, and I feel that here as I'm like validating your experience, that there's a lot of anger. They're like, yes, there's quite a bit of anger. I'm like, I'm here and I'm present for this anger. You know, like yes, but only 10% of it is this interaction. And you can't validate away the capitalist system. You can't validate away that maybe my ancestors have fear around people in positions of power speaking loudly, right? That like this constriction in my body isn't just mine, that it's like 5 generations back. Again, I know we're getting deep really quickly here, but if this all gets acknowledged, we can actually, like, I want to say, like, set this all free. There's like ancestral patterns we can shatter. There's a socio-political system. I didn't think I was going to get so deep into that so quick, but I can see that, acknowledge it, honor that exploration that humans are exploring, and then choose my engagement of it. And then all of that gives my, I'll say, like, lived experiences validation and space. Without that, all of me is still going to be compressed under someone else's story. Right? Because if, and even if, like, let's say I am really good at validating my supervisor, I'm like, I hear that I dropped the ball. Let me clean this up. They're yelling at me. I'm like, your anger is totally warranted. I get it. This is the third time I made this mistake. I see where you're coming from, right? I can still match that and own it, right? But if I'm not holding these concentric circles, then I'm still having to eat something that isn't mine. Hope that makes sense, right? So I'm saying, like, we need relational skills and we also need clarity, stability. And I'm going to talk about the energy centers specifically, but we also need energy centers that are individuated, is what I'm going to say. So hope this all makes sense. I know I'm like sharing heavy. We're going to do a little quick process, but let me check the chat and y'all can be in the chat if y'all still have questions. Ready to move on beyond resistance. My self-talk today, embarrassed that I asked for help, totally and joking. And that's what I'm talking about, right? Is like, what if I saw asking for help is worthy of like doing? Like, how can I love the aspect of me that knows that when something is beyond my skill set, I'm willing to ask for help. And then that's why I'm so good at things, right? Like, what if I let me asking for help be included in what I deem powerful and worthy? Do we check in to make sure that what we're feeling, that we are feeling, or is we're empathizing with it? Um, yeah, sure. That's a good question. And yeah, with this, it's like we're going to practice moving through these layers of resistance and guarding so that we can drop into our true emotions. There's the things I think I'm feeling. And I'm like, hey, Ken, how was your day? And I'm like, good. And I'm like, if I soften, I'm like, oh, I was really sad today and embarrassed. And I'm like, oh, but really excited. And I'm like, and that was like on my way to the fridge. You know what I'm saying? Like that wasn't even my whole day. That was like excited, embarrassed, ashamed, excited. Like that was literally a snapshot of 10 minutes of what my body was feeling. And then I felt, just like quiet, engaged. Then I felt tired, right? Then I felt pressured, anxious, right? Like on my way to the car, right? And then I felt nervous, scared, right? Like while driving, you know what I'm saying? Like there's an immense amount of information, but we have to soften to receive it. So I hope that makes sense. Clear that backlog. Are you referring to past related experiences? Definitely. And we're going to do specific work with how to clean up that backlog. I'm wondering if it matters to pinpoint. Now, we're going to do work where, let's say, if I'm feeling anger, we let the anger vibrate and connect to the anger moments. So maybe I have a recollection of Tuesday night being really fun. But if I'm trying to clear a backlog of anger and Tuesday night pulls up, then we just clear the exchange that's happening. And the way I describe it is sometimes like certain emotions will have a lot of moments in time that anchor and reinforce that moment. So an example here would be like fear. When I find a deep fear in my body, allowing all these moments in time that reinforced that fear. And then there's like mom yelling at me. That one time at work, I dropped the ball. Thursday night when I was like laying down and I remembered, this email I was supposed to send out, right? Like we just let the fear match the tone of different experiences. And then uh, they'll often call this like decontextualized trauma or decontextualized experiences. So it's experiences that I have the fear, but I don't have any more of the story that is associated with that fear. And that's often the really stuck. I'll say like that's really the hard stuff to clear, because when I have the story, I can see the situation and understand it and typically validate it. But when I just have the emotion, it's hard to validate it because I have no story as far as like why that's even there. Can I break down the concentric circles thing? I'm gonna set a container for us, and then you can ask me, Anika, if I'm not speaking to that yet. Can we go through where it might be disrespectful? Well, that's a good question. So can we get into situations where it's disrespectful to acknowledge true feelings? Um, I'll say absolutely, and we're gonna get there too, right? Like just because I feel like hurt, embarrassed, disconnected at work doesn't mean that's the appropriate place to share that, right? Like if my need for connection and value is present at work, and that's why I feel, let's say, hurt at work, what we're going to do is reset what needs are present in our interactions. And this will be part of our second little session later in like 30, 40 minutes. But I also think that not all of our needs need to be present in every interaction. So when I'm at work, I think it's not skillful for my need to be valued as a human being to be present there. Again, if it's a socio-political system that is embedded in capitalism, that is, I'll say overwhelmingly then embedded in like productivity, making money, producing physical things, then like there might be a different, let's say, concentric circle of what needs of mine are present there. Um, and again, I'm going to explain it more. So then with my family, it might be that I love my family deeply, and yet my family doesn't have the skills to show up for my true needs or my true emotions. And that's okay. Um, like this is a personal example, but and I shared this, but like it for me, it put a lot of things in my perspective. In perspective, like I always knew this, but like I asked my dad more specifically recently, and my dad started working in the fields, like lemon fields, when he was 9 years old, like 8 or 9 years old, and then he started to apprentice in a foundry where they would superheat metals, and like he learned welding at like 10, 11. You know what I'm saying? Like, so my dad was doing hard labor from the time he was 9. So then, like, for me to go to my dad and be like, Father, like you were always present for me in all these tangible physical ways, but I don't ever feel like you saw me as a person. Like I think it would, I think for me, those needs are really clearly not in a field that my father has like skill in. And so I can engage him at the places that there is skill, right? So, like, and again, because I want to consistently produce benefit, and I want to like set my needs up to matter for me deeply and have interactions that can actually meet my needs. If I feel valued because I did the work to open my deep connection to the earth, my deep connection to myself, my purpose, and I can hold myself with love and value and like see myself as precious, then I don't need my dad to do that work for me. Because again, my dad, who worked in the fields when he was 8, if I have to wait for him to see me deeply and have the emotional intelligence to share that and I'll say reflect my value back to me, for me personally, I won't get that in this lifetime most likely. And I personally can't wait until my dad does that work. My partner can't wait, my friends can't wait, right? Like my workplace can't wait for me to be like, hey guys, I'm gonna be able to hear feedback better, but I'm kind of waiting for my dad to do his work. So I'm gonna have to pop off on y'all today. Just, I'm like, so I throw chairs because he hasn't done that work yet, right? Like, but so for me, again, personally, like I can do that work and engage my dad where engagement is possible, where I can meet my needs and he can have his needs met, right? And so, for example, me honoring my dad's hard work, how endlessly disciplined and how much he's endured for me to have the life that I have, is what will translate for him. For me to ask him to see me with a complexity that he doesn't have the opportunity to have. I'll say that he didn't have the opportunity to have. It's literally just currently not possible, right? Because he'd have to, like, he didn't get to be 8. So how could he let me or celebrate me being 8 or 10 or 12 or 15? I hope this is making sense. Um, we're gonna do it though, y'all. Y'all trust me, trust me. And I hope these examples make sense. So we'll do it. So we're gonna start by creating a container. So we're gonna make this really beautiful bubble, and we're gonna invite all these deep earth energies, all these vast universal energies. And we're just gonna imagine that in this exploration of how to relate, how to be really skillful at relating, Today, we're exploring how to have a lot of clarity, stability, permission for all of us to be celebrated. That the earth and universe just bring all of these resources that can make that happen. And we're going to bring our guides, and we're going to bring vaster guidance, imagining that we're inviting beings that can hold it down, like energetic reinforcements. And these are beings that are like examples could be like they're perfect embodiments of love, of empowerment, of kindness, of patience, of boundaries. And we're just calling on this like perfect combination. So in this space, we can get, again, all of the things that we want, but even things that we don't even know to want yet. Ways to evolve in how we relate that we didn't even know was possible. And as we bring those energies, imagine that they just start to create this container and even structure it. And then we're going to just create a whole lot of permission for this exploration to be about ourselves, right? So somebody might be like, compassion, that's easy. I don't need to explore that. I need to explore how to set boundaries, how to have more clarity. And for someone, it might be the opposite. They're like, clarity, boundaries, I got it. I literally don't have any more friends because of it, though, right? Like, I need a little more compassion and patience. And just let your exploration be totally celebrated, totally supported, and be resourced by this container. There we go. Good. And there's all these like deep earth energies, and we can think of them as vortexes, we can think of them as like holy places. And just allow these energies to also come up and just create a lot of grounding and stability in the container. And then from here, we're going to bring our awareness to our individual aura. And I put a lot of stuff in the space already. And so we're just going to allow ourselves to put magnets in front and behind our aura and just start to clear anything that's getting kicked up. Good. We'll clear our grounding cord, and there's all these deep earth energies that we can bring up. And allow these deep earth energies to connect to the bottom of your feet. And just allow your aura to exhale. And just start to gently release energies back to the earth. Allowing these earth energies to ground and support. Imagine that your authentic energies are being stabilized, nurtured by the earth. Good. We're going to invite our individual guides, and we're already clearing energies, and just allow your guides to start to recall your authentic energies, updating, empowering, enhancing those energies, beaming them in from the bottom of our feet to the top of our head, filling any spaces, any gaps. Good. And I talked about creating this baseline. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to start to hold any resistance, any guarding. So just kind of get a sense of where's their tension. And sometimes that can be in my mental space where I'm like, Maybe my self-talk is really intense. Maybe my jaw is clenched, shoulders tense. Sometimes it can feel like defensiveness. Sometimes it can feel like just like numbness. And we're going to practice using the container to just honor that this resistance, defensiveness, disconnection, that this is a part of what it means to be human. And just gently welcome those emotions, those sensations. We're going to gently wash over those sensations with earth energies, with healing, nourishing water, with the element of fire, the element of wind, and resistance, guarding, defensiveness. They're trying to protect us from new information, from information that maybe would invalidate our lived experiences, protecting us from things we disagree with. And just as we're welcoming these energies, just thank these energies for keeping you safe. And just kind of bookmark the sensation. What it feels like when these soften, what it feels like when these open. And then as you're softening through that first layer, notice what's underneath it. And sometimes there's going to be emotions. Sometimes that can be more disconnection, more defensiveness. And for right now, we're just going to imagine that we can honor whatever's underneath it. And we're going to imagine that these different colors of energy wash over that place. And I like to imagine a whole rainbow. And that whole rainbow gently washes over. And I like to imagine that this place that we just opened, that it gets to ask for exactly what it wants and needs. And you can even play with, sometimes I imagine it's like a little pill, like a little homeopathy flower essence kind of thing, right? Where it's like that perfect combination of like validation, space, love, forgiveness, and just let your inner wisdom, in collaboration with the earth, the universe, this container, just bring to that place that we're opening exactly what it needs to feel loved, to feel a hug. Good. Perfect. And then as that happens, we're just gonna kind of like soften again and just see, is there any new layers of guarding, resistance, tension? And now generally we'll feel these deeper in our body. So maybe it's in our back, maybe it's in our core. So wherever that tension is, again, we're just gonna invoke the container and just be like, what would it be like to think this tension? And acknowledge its contribution to us. And as that happens again, bookmark the sensation of it gently opening, softening, and your awareness getting to flow. And then as that gently opens, one more time, scan for what emotions were underneath that. And you might find more of the same emotion. You might find a new emotion here. And once again, this emotion, allow Earth and universal energies to hold and support it. And just allow this emotion to start sharing with the Earth and universe exactly what it needs to feel loved. Maybe it needs more gentleness, a lot of time and space. Maybe it needs a lot of validation, a lot of space to express. We can make that whole rainbow of energies available and just start to wash over those emotions with those different colors and frequencies of energy. And as that happens, allow that emotion to feel hugged, to feel loved. And just notice what happens when we can include that emotion into what it means to be human, into what's worthy of our love and respect. Good. Then one more time, we'll put magnets in front of us and behind us to release energies. We're going to refresh our grounding cord and just allow earth energies to help us like release all of these different strategies that we were using to protect, defend, project, and refuse these emotions. But now that they're being held and healed, there's a lot of energies that can release. And then our guides can start to recall our authentic energies. Many times there's even authentic aspects of our soul that can like now come back home. And we're just gonna honor, celebrate, clean up those energies, and then beam them back in from the bottom of our feet to the top of our head. And we're gonna let that evolve our identity. We'll let that evolve our self-concept. We'll let that evolve our reality and belief structures. And just gently let that like vibrate out through our relational system and just start to evolve all of our relationships. Good. And as that's evolving our relationships, we're just going to let that gently evolve how the energy flows through our body. Good. How our, let's say, energy centers get to resource. Good. How we can relate to our guides, this container. Bring lots of sparkles in, lots of resources. And then just gently allow yourself to receive as much of the energies in the container that are aligned with your purpose, aligned with what you're up to in this lifetime. And just allow your inner wisdom to like translate those energies, almost like bringing them in at the right time, the right amount. Allowing them to evolve your Akashic. And then whether you were in all those relationship meditations that we did on Mondays or not, this field has, let's say, 3 months worth of work available in it. And just let that gently integrate across time. And gently allow that to evolve your timeline. Mhm. Imagining like these are skills, imagining that you've had 3 months, 6 months, a whole year to practice these skills. Deep reference points for stability, authenticity, being at current time, having resources, practicing loving all of ourselves. Perfect. And we're just going to bring lots of sparkles to help that integrate. Gently allowing these energies to flow through our system, our open channels, open centers. And boom. This initial baseline, it's simple. It's not always easy to do, but like all of those emotions and stories, they just need a hug, like That's it. That's literally it. Like, the second we add other human beings, right, is when this shit gets complicated, right? So again, my fear, it might throw hands, right? It might be mad at me that I made a choice. I might have all these examples of times I haven't been there for my fear, times I abandoned myself, right? The more I soften, hold that, and love it, the more it gently opens, right? And then enter my cousin, my relatives, a sibling, a roommate, right? That's where it gets really complicated, right? Because some of them want hugs from us, some of them don't want hugs, some of them want a very specific kind of hug, some of them, right, like have good days and bad days. Again, I said, like, my ancestors might not fuck with certain people. There might be stuff in the stars in the sky, and then again, we're embedded in these bigger systems. So we can take all of that complexity when it interfaces with our body and our aura. It's profoundly simple. And I'm going to give us very specific techniques that are easy. Yeah, I mean, well, I'll say simple. They can be hard to apply, but it'll be easy, it'll be cake. Like, we can do all of this badass energy work, and people are still gonna people are still gonna make choices. You could be immensely assertive, kind, generous, boundaried, aware, presenting factual information, and someone can still throw a tantrum, try to take your car, throw a chair, send you emails at work. I'm trying to think of all the weedy, weird boundary things. Um, you know, contact your ex-partner. I'm trying to think of send you packages to your house, right? Like, they could do all of those things, although you're clearing cords, aware, clearing karma, right? Whatever y'all want to do, people are gonna people. So we're gonna keep doing this work of our individual aura, but now I'm gonna kind of put some extra things on that space, right? And we're still gonna kind of go back in time, clear the pictures that are matching our patterns, our big emotions, right? But I want to kind of complicate it up already. So I want to say first, when we talk about relationships, when we mention relationships, I want to start coming up with some definitions, because it's important, right? That when I say relationships, that we all kind of have some shared language of what I mean and what's possible meaning for what a relationship is. So I'll say, in general, most of our interactions with other humans, most of our relationships, right, are circumstantial. Meaning, I didn't apply at a job and I'm like, I would like to be friends with two people that are middle aged, like one really young person, and then this person who's like way older that has like a really different belief system from me. I'm like, I'd like to find that job, right? Like, we don't typically say yes to the full gamut of relating, right? We typically say yes to particular circumstances, so like, I get in the bus. I used to ride the bus a lot of Tucson until one time. Oh, y'all gonna laugh. One time I sat in a seat and it was peed on, and people saw me get on the bus. I saw the seat and the whole thing was like clear, and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm about to sit down. And I sit down and it's wet, and everyone else in the bus looks at me and they're like, yo, somebody peed on that. And I was just like, yeah. Right. So I said yes to the bus. I said yes to a seat. I didn't say yes to get, I'm saying sitting on pee, but it was the circumstance. Why did they say it before? I think because they just thought it was going to be hilarious. And it was hilarious, right? So same. I applied at a job. I didn't say, I said yes to a job that was going to pay my bills. I didn't say yes to, weird boundaries with my supervisor where they would tell me about their relationship stuff. I didn't say yes to, like, emails after hours. I didn't say yes to like a job that had really let's say like complicated interpersonal stuff, right? But the circumstances I was in pressed me up against those things, right? I'll say we're born into circumstances, right? We're born into family dynamics. I see people talk shit about New York City. New York City would have been, yeah, I would have been warned. Oh, that's what's up. I don't know. I was, maybe people try to warn me too, but I just remember that very distinctly. But anyways, um, the circumstances often we have very little choice over that. In the sense, again, you're born into the family you were born into. There really isn't choice. You know what I'm saying? I could try to from today on to like have conversations about emotional intelligence with my parents and my brother and the rest of my cousins to try to change the circumstances that I'm in, which is meaningful. People do that stuff, it's beautiful work. And I can also just give myself permission to see what are the things that my family values, what are the things that I value. And I can just acknowledge that. Like, let that be a thing I don't like, but a thing that is true nonetheless. Again, most of our relationships are circumstantial. We can be at a workplace that sucks, that pays my bills, that I'm going to stay at for a while until I get a better job, that I don't like how people relate. And yet they're still relating in that way. And if I leave, they're still going to relate in that way. If I stay, they're doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? Like we can let that be an uncomfortable, unfortunate, but still a truth. And then we can drop into where are the places that I have choice? And then I even want to say, like, and then what are the possible outcomes of my behavior? Right? Because again, if I have a family and, um, I don't know about y'all's family, but my family is complicated, right? Like, I have cousins that making bad choices. I have cousins that a few of them make good choices, right? Some of them I'm nice to, some of them I'm not nice to, right? And yet, if I try to pretend that they're not that, I set myself up, right? I set myself up to either try to change people that don't want to change or pretend that people are nice that aren't nice, right? And one sets me up to be taken advantage of, one sets me up to be exhausted all the time, right? Um, and again, I'm always trying to put options. So no, try to figure out what option you're, what I'm saying? Like with family at work, do you like overcommit? Do you overgive? Do you see people's potential but not where they're at? Do you see people's potential even if they're not working towards it? I'm trying to help them work towards it, right? And that's admirable but exhausting, right? Or opposite, right? It's like um so in this example with my family, right, it's like um I'm pretending there's someone they're not, right? I hope this makes sense. But if I focus on function, I can be really clear on like what is it that I actually want from these interactions, right? I'm like, if I want to positively contribute, my positive contribution could be like staying home and not getting in their business. And that can, and being present and available for when they are ready to change, as an example, right? At my workplace, again, if I'm like overly doing it, underdoing it, everything in between, right? If I'm focused on function, it's like, bruh, they just need me to get there on time. They need me to answer like 10 emails a day and be nice. That's what they pay me to do, right? Like they don't pay me to like take on anybody else's problems. They don't pay me to like critique management, HR, see ways that we're not interfacing with the community, right? Like most of the time, the things, I want to be very thoughtful when I say this. I'll say, because our relationships are highly circumstantial, most of the suffering that I see humans create is an unwillingness to see things as they are and to let ourselves be humbled by the very little that other people need from us. Like, my job is going to be a shitty workplace, whether I'm there or not. It don't need me to be a hero. When I think me a hero, I'm going to be exhausted all the time. When I take people's on stuff that isn't mine, it's going to be exhausting all the time. When I try to change my workplace in a way that it doesn't want to change, I'm going to be exhausted all the time, right? But also, when the things that it's asking of me, I'm unwilling to do, I'm going to suck at that job. You know, they're like, Ken, I'd like you to send 10 emails a week. And I'm like, I'm going to keep it at 5, bro. I'm going to make excuses. I'm like, but I'll shoot 5 emails, right? I'm like 6 on good days, but 5 is where it's at, right? Like, and sometimes I'm gonna say it might sound really counterintuitive, right? But sometimes my job is like, hey, Ken, we really prefer people to be in this very small box. Just be nice to people. You don't even have to be real. Just be nice, shoot a couple emails, clock in, clock out. And I'm like, nah, bro, I'm gonna put my mom shit here. You know, I'm like, nah, we're about to be enmeshed. You know, and they're like, no, let's just, you know, just 5 emails. You know, we're just trying to have ends meet. We want you to, you know, we're gonna give you money, right? And I'm like, my authority issues. I'm gonna send 5 emails, but still, authority issues is gonna be present here, right? I'm gonna check comments. Um, and so what's keeping me from relating is I'm unwilling to let this thing be what it is, and I'm bringing to it things that are rigid in my field, right? So, like, let's say my authority shit, it was mine before I got to the job. You know what I'm saying? Like, the job does want me in this little box. And it's because we live in a socio-political system that, like, you know, capitalism isn't based on like authenticity. It's based on, you know, depending on the industry that we're in, like numbers and productivity, right? And that's actually, I again, like, it's okay for us to participate in that, so long as we have choice, so long as like it's contributing to us in ways that we deem positive and that we contribute in ways that we deem positive. Like, it can be very practical. um and if we let those contexts be there, we can have much healthier relationships, and we can set boundaries that are appropriate. So again, and that's work, right? And it can get complicated, right? But let's say a roommate, right? If I get a new roommate, I think we're supposed to be besties. They were just looking for a place to live, right? It's the incongruence that taxes are relating, right? It's all of the unconscious rigid, where I'm like, okay, we're gonna hang out every day, we're gonna watch the same shows, and we love the same music. And then they're like, yo, I just needed a place to stay. Honestly, they're like, it's the middle of the month. You seemed nice enough, right? And then the second I'm like, yo, let's go out. And then they're like, no, right? Like, I feel invalidated and I feel hurt. And then I have all of these examples of invalidation and hurt that I then put onto this situation. And then I go from thinking this person was awesome and my bestie, to then being like, I don't know about them, to then being like, yo, can I tell you, I just had the worst roommate ever. I'm like, it was terrible. Yo, like, They were always in their room. It was really weird. Anytime I'd bring somebody over, they'd like slam the door really loud. I'm like, all of my friends thought they were weird, right? When they just wanted to be a roommate, they didn't want to be besties, right? And I think of my workplaces in the same way. I'm like, they're like, hey, again, I'm gonna say the same thing, right? I'm like, they're like, hey, bro, we just need you to send emails, like smile at people. Sometimes think of cool ideas, but maybe like we need a cool idea every 6 months. You can just kind of chill, really. And then I'm like, yo, I'm like, they never deeply saw that I was a unique human being. They didn't even care about me. One time I was crying, my workplace didn't actually hold me. It was abusive. I think it was, right? And I'm like, yeah, it was, right? But if we keep things in context, it's just we weren't aware that we weren't ever speaking the same language, right? We weren't engaging the same playing field, right? So a simple example I always think of is like, I show up and I think we're playing soccer and we're playing football. And so I might dribble quick. I might tell people about how many goals I've made, but we're playing football, you know? And so those are the different concentric circles. How dare the capitalist structure ignore my inherent value? Exactly. And and again, I hope and I'm not trying to invalidate any of our real emotions. I'm just saying like we're setting ourselves up to be devastated all the time if I think these broken systems are gonna heal me. Again, coming back to my father, I'm not making any excuses for my dad. I'm saying that if I wait for my dad to do his work for me to be whole, I'm gonna be a broken ass motherfucker for the rest of my life, y'all. That's what I'm saying. And I can't afford that. My loved ones can't afford that. And I have the skills and tools to do that work. If I do that work, I can relate to my father in ways that will meet both of our needs. And then from a place of stability, I can heal my whole family line. I can heal my whole ancestral lineage. And then what I'm saying is that this capitalist system, if we're free, we can create the causes to set that system free. But if I'm swept up in it and I'm like, capitalism, why don't you ever see me? Then like, I'm just feeding this thing, right? Like I'm 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 still subscribed to it. Um, I hope this makes enough sense. Let me check comments. Y'all can keep in the chat. I feel like it's the opposite for me. I show for working people telling me about their life struggles. That's totally what's so true. Yeah. And again, people are gonna people, right? So even if we're clear, other people are gonna invite us to like enmesh. And sometimes we can choose. We can be like, I do want to like have, you know, yeah, sometimes I'm like, hey, iffy boundaries are okay with this person at work. Like I trust them, I care about them, I want to relate to them in that way. But we just want to have choice. Like freedom comes from choice. Freedom comes from like a skill set. From like at every point there's resource and like infinite amount of options. Um, do you think it could be waste of energy bringing our authentic selves everywhere? Um, Again, I think, and we're gonna explore it in a process right now. I don't think my authentic, resourced, me embodying my essence and soul's purpose is necessary everywhere. Um, when I'm watching a movie, I don't need to be channeling my essence. You know what I'm saying? Like it's okay to watch a movie, eat popcorn, and like laugh. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay. When I was at workplaces that um asked me to be fractured, I asked myself if that's like was aligned with my purpose. And if it was, then I allowed myself to be, um, I kind of think of it as like a volume. I allowed my volume to be down. It's not that, and we're going to do it again specifically. Like, let's say my crown, when I'm at home meditating, my crown can be open at 100%. When I'm at work, my crown can be at 10%. It's just me turning the volume down because, again, I don't need to channel the gods when I'm like sending emails. Same, maybe at home, I love having my heart open. Like, that's like how I run. If I was at work, that would really suck in my interactions with clients, right? It's not inauthentic for me to put my heart at 10%. For me, it's skillful to put my heart at 10% if that's what my job requires for me to do that well. Again, if resistance is coming up, like let it be present. My inner rebel is flipping the table. Totally, yeah, we can totally be there. What about people going to, yeah, totally. Okay, so good. So I hope this is making sense. Um, and I'm gonna put this out there, and y'all are talking about this, right? Um, I think in relationships, we have a lot of collective awareness now around codependence, and we're like, codependence is bad. And then I think we have some awareness around like individuation. Sometimes it's like independence. Um, and then, but there's something on this side which is anti-dependence. And I don't hear no Instagram posts on folks being anti-dependent and how that also isn't a successful strategy. Right? So codependence is like someone else has to meet my needs. Anti-dependence is like I am an island. I don't have any needs, right? I'm like the needs that I have, maybe I squish down, right? What we're going to explore is both being individuated and having the skill set to relate to others in ways that meet our needs, right? Like that's the healthy thing in the middle. If we're coming from codependence, right? Like it's okay to individuate. It's okay to like not talk to people. It's even okay to be like that person's a narcissist, right? I feel deeply hurt. That's okay. And also, there's a process from being deeply hurt to then coming back to the table. With anti-dependence, right? It's actually a process of allowing myself to be human and have needs, allowing myself to have emotions that are soft, right? Often with anti-dependences, we harden parts of ourselves. And then there could be a backlog of hurt, right? This middle place, right? I'm individuated, but I allow and celebrate my interdependence. I'm gonna respond to comments. So even at 10% volume, our heart can be 100% authentic. And I'll say yes in the context it's in, right? So at work, my heart being at 20% open. So like let's say, and I am getting ready to go back into facilitate groups in juvenile detention facilities. I have to have a really skillful combination of both loving, but also not taking shit and feeding and like role modeling in ways that land, right? So if my heart is totally open, it'll probably not be received by any of the young men I'd be working with. Right? They'd probably be super suspicious and be like, nah, bro, that fool's creepy. That's weird. That's sus, man. Right? They'd be like, nah, I don't know about that guy. Right? Like, I might have to run more power, more stability, even like mimic the way that they run their field, and then slowly open my heart so that from a place of congruence, I open my heart and they see that and they're just like, ah. And then it assimilates. And then like I open my heart a little bit more, and then they're like, ah, and then it slowly changes the feel, right? But so I will say like maybe having my heart at 10% is 100% skillful for me to bring love to a place that really desperately needs it. But I have to start at 10%, right? And it doesn't mean that I have, or I'll say also like flexibility is required of me, because if I'm like, well, they just need love, so they're gonna get it, right? Like that's my rigidity, right? Again, like at work, they're just like, hey, we just need you to be nice. And I'm like, nah, y'all gonna get the real me. You know, and I'm like, I had a bad day. Y'all gonna get that real shit. And they're like, no, 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 no. Sorry, Ken. Like, you misunderstand. We're paying you X amount of dollars to pretend you're happy. Is that are you willing to exchange X amount of dollars per hour to pretend you're happy? And if the answer is no, then like I need to be like, nah, fuck that. That's not enough money. If y'all need me to pretend I'm happy, I need $30 an hour. You know what I'm saying? Or 40 bucks, whatever you, I don't know. Right? Like, I don't know what that dollar amount is. It's different for all of us. Some of us are like 875. I'll pretend I'm happy for 875. That's my mark. Other people are like $55 an hour, right? Whatever that is. Um, but it's authentic because I'm saying yes to this engagement, and I've cleared my preconceptions about it. It's only when there's compression that it's dehumanizing, right? It's only when there's compression and I am dishonoring, invalidating my own lived experiences that I can be dehumanized. If my emotions are present, if I honor that I do feel pissed, I did have a bad day, and my job is asking this of me because I'm exchanging with my workplace, then my humanity is intact. And I get to go home and have real emotions. Again, and I know this is like fraught, right? Like this is a complicated conversation. So like y'all can disagree with all parts of this, but we're gonna do it. So really quickly, we're gonna move through each energy center and create a little reference point for authenticity, and then weave that authenticity through these different layers of what's needed from us. And really quickly, that stability that I was sharing in our first energy center, what's required there is a sense of safety, right? If I'm scared, if I don't, yeah, if I feel unsafe, if there's constriction, then resource can't flow through my first energy center, right? In our second center, generally speaking, we want to just have choice in how we share that energy, right? So if we just think of like those as life energies, as creative energies, it's when we don't have choice that that energy center feels extracted from. And that's where we clear cords, we clear contracts, right? We're going to do all of that stuff. Um, this is also where there's often a lot of gendered messages and programs around how I'm supposed to relate. And I'll say those gendered messages, they come from our family, they come from our lived experiences, they come from, I mean, our workplaces will like put us in very specific gendered behaviors, roles, expectations, right? It's in the ability to, I'll say, like, bring awareness to those, clear those, and allow our own authentic, I'll say, like, behaviors to arise, or like choice to arise. Then authenticity can happen in that second center. And then those energies can flow through our channels, flow through our body. And it's a type of vitality, let's say, right? In our third center, it's a feeling of empowerment, right? Like if my third center is collapsed, I might know something is wrong, but not be able to respond to it. And this again is when relating, right? At work, right? At work, if my third center is collapsed, if my second feels extracted from, if I feel forced to play roles that I hate, that aren't authentic to me, and if I feel super unsafe to have any of these conversations, right? Then this is a super shitty place. I'm going to feel exhausted all the time, right? It can still be a shitty place, but if I feel safe, if I feel like my authentic energies get to be mine and flow, if I feel empowered and I choose to engage the way that I want, it's still a shitty workplace, but it flows off of me. I had a teacher who used to say, like, water off a duck, like it can rain and the little duck's like fine, right? The water just flows right off. And then real quick, right? With our heart, generally we want to range. So the people that are really close to us, we want to be able to love them fully. For the people that we don't know, it's okay to feel neutral. Oftentimes our heart will get stuck and it's scary to love this much. It's scary to receive this much love, right? We want range. In our throat, we want to have the ability to express, right? Our crown and third eye, we want to be able to perceive something clearly. I'm putting these complex things out, but we're going to do it and it's going to be really simple, cute, sweet. So y'all bear with me. And y'all have this recording and we're going to spend the whole weekend doing this stuff. So if anyone's overwhelmed, it's okay. So we're just going to tune into our group container again. And just imagine that you can reorient and reorganize the resources in the space. And your guides know what process we're going to do. And so you can just let them take the lead on bringing those energies in. You can let your intuition take the lead. And we're just going to start by creating that reference point and that place of stability. And so we're going to invite those deep earth energies, our energetic container, our guides, our inner wisdom to bring up that right combination of earth energies. And we're going to bring those energies. They're going to touch our first energy center. And just imagine that that first energy center gets healed and soothed. That any past experiences that are still unprocessed, any emotions that are still unprocessed, that they just get like fully loved up. They get blessed and healed. That really core needs here at our first energy center first get unlocked. And then like deeply met, deeply nourished. And we'll allow that center to evolve. To awaken. And then just imagine that again, our guides, the earth, this container, can just create all these new templates for how that energy center can run. And then just allow those templates to like, let's say, be applied. We'll keep that happening in the background. We're going to let these earth energies and universal energies come up to our second center. And once again, we're just going to start by healing that center. Soothing any past experiences, stuck experiences, traumatic events. Just really honoring those experiences. Imagine that any unmet needs in that second center, that earth and universal energies and our own inner wisdom can start to honor and feed and care for those needs. I'm going to allow that center to unlock and open. Allow your second center to evolve, awaken, and then again from the earth, the universe, this container. Just allow all these new templates, all these new ways of being to open in your second center. And allowing those templates to be put into motion. Allowing them to gently reset our relationships. Allowing earth energies to come up. And those earth, universal, and container energies to hold our solar plexus. And again, gently healing, soothing our solar plexus. Healing past experiences, layers of constriction, tension. Just giving that center full permission to open. Allowing the deep needs at our solar plexus to unlock. And then power to flow through that center. Power that contributes to our stability, clarity. Maybe that's a power that helps us set boundaries. Maybe on the other end of the spectrum, it's a power to trust, power to be vulnerable. We're just going to allow that solar plexus to unlock all of these different templates and bring all these new ways of being in. When earth and universe energies are going to come to our heart, gently healing and soothing our heart. Healing any past experiences, any hurt. these earth and universal and the container energies to just begin to gently cleanse our heart. And imagining that the deep needs that are present there, that they can be fully met, celebrated, honored, deeply met. And allow your heart to like open, awaken, evolve, be empowered. And all these new ways of being can come in and put into practice. Now we'll allow those earth and universal energies to come to our throat. And the same thing, allowing our throat to heal and soothe any constriction. There could be contracts, cords, programs. Just allow yourself to like heal your subscription to any of those energies. And just allow like a deep permission for your authentic energies to flow in your throat. And the deep needs that are present in your throat center. Allow earth and universe energies to unlock and then soothe and nurture that whole center. And then again, we're going to allow our throat to awaken, evolve. And then we're just going to download from the earth, the container, the universe, all these different templates. All these different ways of relating. And then letting our throat kind of put those into practice. And then we'll come up to our third eye. And once again, offering a healing there. Supporting our third eye, healing and soothing any invalidations. Supporting our clear perception and opening, unlocking and empowering that center. Opening new templates and then letting those integrate. And then finally opening our crown. Allowing there to be a healing there. Unlocking, opening, empowering that center. Bringing in all of these different templates. These different ways of relating to others. And just gently allowing those to be put into practice. Put magnets in front of us and behind us and just start releasing energies. We'll refresh our grounding cord. And there's all these different energetic structures that the earth can come up, touch, and just start to gently release if that's appropriate. There's all these structures that the earth can like update, replace. We'll let our whole aura, our whole energy field, energetic channels, energetic centers, all of those reset and evolve. We'll let this reset our identity and self-concept, our reality and belief structures. We'll let it evolve our relationships. And we're just going to put a little bubble out in front of us. And from this really authentic and resource place, we're going to put a bubble out in front of us that has all of our unconscious expectations. And we can leave that really general and open. And you can also put unconscious expectations with family, with your parents, with your partner, co-workers, friends. We're just going to examine what these unconscious expectations create. And maybe you're like, oh, that's why I'm mad all the time. Maybe some connections are really clear. And some of them might have costs and benefits. So just let them light up. And we're going to bring earth and universal energies. And let's just start to ground out of this bubble all of the unconscious expectations that are either A, no longer authentic, and those can just gently release, or B, let's say, are no longer aligned with what you value. And so that might just look like me releasing just the things that aren't true for me anymore. And let those just start to release from that bubble. And we're just going to start to wash over that bubble with earth energies, healing, nourishing water, with the element of fire. And with that element of fire, there's all these contracts we can clear. There's all these karmic energies we can clear. And just allow the container, the earth and universe to help you with that karma. And just let earth and universal energies just start to like awaken these expectations. Maybe like bringing them to current time, aligning them with your purpose. And gently, we're just going to allow and let your inner wisdom kind of decide to bring certain expectations to conscious light. I'm just going to see what are the things that are really important to you. And so there's unconscious expectations that are now authentic. And now there's conscious expectations that are authentic. And as you bring these energies closer, again, earth and universal energy is the containers present. Just let your aura kind of orient to this new information. And just like pick new strategies, new behaviors to get these expectations, when appropriate, met. So maybe a different way to say that is, what do these expectations need from us? Let that evolve your aura. Open magnets in front of us and behind us to release energies into. Continuing to resource and recall authentic energies. And we can even like reset our conscious mind just so we can see, oh, if this is the thing I want, this is what it needs from me. And there's going to be times that we get things that we don't want. And when our expectations aren't met, let Earth and universe energies find what happens in those centers. And just bring lots of love to any place that constricts, any place that rejects. And so it's okay to feel disappointed, sad, but when there's resource, it feels a little bit different. Good. I'm gonna think that bubble, and however much of it is appropriate to integrate, just let your inner wisdom bring those energies in. Whatever is appropriate to release to our guide, to the earth, to the universe, just let that kind of happen. We'll put bubbles in front of us and behind us to release energies into. We'll refresh our grounding core. Recall authentic energies. And now we're going to take this newfound skill to all of these different concentric ways of relating, all these different bubbles. And so you can make a little bubble for your family, bigger bubble for your ancestral lineage, for any collective groups that we identify with. And this could be around race, class, gender, sexual orientation, etc., etc. We can look at the different things that humans are exploring as bigger bubbles. And then even the earth and humanity in this moment, and just let your inner wisdom do this. From this place of clarity and awareness of our expectations, let yourself honor each of these bubbles and the unique expectations that they have. Notice where they're the same, notice where they're different. For any bubble that's difficult, you can kind of scooch it back. And for each of these bubbles, we're going to put a little star at the edge of your aura where you can recall your authentic energies. And then release any of their energies back to that star, or it can go back to their guides. And keep that going while honoring each of these bubbles, each of these explorations, and then honoring your unique bubble and your unique exploration. And there's a lot of contracts we'll be clearing in the background, a lot of karmic energies. And just kind of notice as you step out of a bubble. Like notice the freedom, the space. If there's a bubble that feels particularly sticky, we're going to gently bring awareness to any resistance, guarding, defenses. We're going to deeply honor the way that that defense system is keeping me safe. I'm going to soften and hold the emotion that's underneath that. I'm going to notice that that emotion is what's keeping me embedded in that bubble. We're going to honor that emotion, heal, soothe, and care for it, giving everything that it needs. And as it releases, recall your energy from those bubbles. Those energies get updated, empowered, enhanced, beamed in from the bottom of our feet to the top of our head. And then give them their energies back. One more time, we're going to refresh our grounding cord. Gently resourcing and awakening again our first, second, third center. Celebrating the safety in our first, choice and clarity in our second, empowerment in our third. Allowing that full range in our heart. Space to speak our truth in our throat. Clarity in our third eye and crown. We're going to thank that process, letting it clear, dissolve, and integrate. Releasing whatever energies back to the universe and earth. Again, honoring each of those explorations and deeply honoring our individual path and purpose. We're going to put magnets in front of us and behind us to release energies into. We're going to recall authentic energies. And then just let those deep earth energies really celebrate all of this big work we just did. And all this big work that we're going to do. And just start to weave these energies back in time, forward in time. Allowing that to evolve our past, evolve our present, evolve our future. Gently again, celebrating that all of us is welcome, all of our emotions are welcome, all of our experiences are worthy of our love and respect. We're going to bring lots of sparkles. And boom.